Structure, scene-based, each can be 2900 characters for VO. Let's begin with Scene 1. If you like it, I'll continue with Scene 2. The Vault of Echoes. Scene 1, The Signal Beneath Silence. Voice-over. The year was 2329. Humanity had already brushed the outer bones of the galaxy, mapped dark energy rivers, passed rogue suns, buried survey drones inside hollow planets. We had chased gods, and found none. Only silence. An infinite, symmetrical, merciless silence. Until the pulse. It came from a sector so empty we called it the Pale Fold, an abyss between arms of the galaxy where nothing had ever been recorded. No gas. No radiation. No stars. But now, a pattern. 5 pulses. Then 3. Then 5 again. It wasn't random. It wasn't natural. It was a lock. And something was knocking. The Union sent the long-range science vessel Morrowind. No weapons. No AI constructs. Just a crew of 8. People. Flawed. Curious. Alone. I was one of them, Dr. Cal Renar, cognitive pattern specialist. They needed someone who could read the language behind the signal. Not the math. The intention. The journey took 3 months. We slept through most of it, induced stasis dreams thick with static. I remember waking with my teeth aching from the cold and my heart heavy with a feeling I couldn't name. Like something had already seen us. Was already waiting. When we arrived in the Pale Fold, there was nothing at first. No light. No color. Just gravitational interference so precise it felt like music. We launched the scout drones. 4 vanished. The 5th sent back a single frame. A black obelisk hundreds of kilometers wide, floating in perfect stillness. Its surface wasn't metal. It was absence. A void that seemed to reject light, reject definition. Around it, rings of fractured space, caught in orbit like frozen echoes of failed time. We'd found it. The source of the pulse. The vault. And before we even touched its surface, the dreams began. The first night, we all dreamed the same thing. A hallway that never ended. Walls breathing like lungs. And a whisper behind us, growing louder, but never speaking. We had not opened the vault. It had already opened us. Let me know if you'd like me to continue with Scene 2. I can build a full cinematic voiceover experience scene by scene. You'll get the complete arc, emotional depth, and visual prompts for each chapter. We spent 2 days just staring at it. The vault didn't move. It didn't hum or glow. It offered no welcome. No warning. It simply existed, beyond physics, beyond design. Our instruments couldn't read its mass. Its surface returned no scans. And yet, it pulled at us. Not like gravity. Like memory. Captain Idris was the first to suggest entry. Not with arrogance, but with inevitability. It's not going to wait forever, he said. And neither are we. So we prepped. Suits sealed. Tethers readied. Remote relays in place. Juno piloted us closer in the shuttle, 10 meters at a time, until the vault filled the sky like a blind god. That's when the shuttle lost all power. No engine failure. No warning. Just gone. Everything inside still functioned, our suits, our lights, even our breath, but the shuttle itself had become a coffin, dead in the water. And outside, on the surface of the vault, something had changed. A seam appeared. Not etched. Not cut. It folded open in pure silence, like paper tearing along an invisible line. Behind it, a passageway, tall as a cathedral, black as memory. The kind of black that doesn't reflect, doesn't allow meaning. We didn't speak. None of us needed to. The vault had made its invitation. We stepped in. The moment my boots crossed the threshold, every sensation shifted. The air felt, not air. The pressure around my body had shape. Like a hand, lightly gripping my ribs. The walls were smooth, but shimmered like glass underwater. As we walked, the passage changed, widening, narrowing, breathing. And then came the sound. Not mechanical. Not alien. Voices. Ours. I heard myself, whispering a memory I'd forgotten. Juno called out to her dead brother in her childhood tongue. Idris froze when he heard his wife's laughter echo from a place no one could see. The vault was not showing us anything, it was remembering us. Recording us. Shaping itself from our minds. We turned a corner, and the corridor opened into a room that was not a room, a space with no geometry, no walls, just floating platforms suspended in pure dark. Above us hung objects, a violin, a wilted rose, a child's drawing, a cracked photograph. All impossibly detailed. All from our pasts. All real. I reached for mine, a broken watch, still ticking. It was my father's. He died when I was 8. That watch had been buried with him. Now it sat in my palm. Warm. Beating. Time, the vault whispered, is not lost. Only stored. Juno's eyes filled with tears. This isn't a tomb, she said. It's a library. But Idris was shaking his head. No. Not just a library. He pointed ahead. Where the platforms ended, a shape hovered in the void. It was human. And it was moving. But none of us had gone that far. Someone else was already here. It stood motionless in the dark. Human in shape. Humanoid in posture. But it wasn't wearing a suit. It wasn't tethered. It breathed no air and cast no shadow. It simply hovered 10 meters above the last platform, arms at its sides, head tilted slightly. Observing. At first we thought it was a projection. A recording. But when Captain Idris raised his arm to signal, the figure mirrored him. Not instantly, delayed by a fraction of a breath, like an echo becoming self-aware. Then it descended. No sound. No motion in the space around it. Just presence. When its feet touched the platform, the entire vault shuddered. Barely perceptible, like an inhale beneath the floor. Our helmets flickered. Our sensors spiked, then failed. And then, our comms came to life. Not with static. With a voice. A voice not heard but felt. Like thought. A direct signal bypassing ears, bypassing words. And still, somehow deeply human. We remember you, it said. We didn't reply. It turned its head slowly, eyeing each of us as if counting chapters in a book. You are not the first, it continued. But you are the first to return. Juno stepped forward. Return? We've never been here before. The figure tilted its head again. Incorrect. Your kind passed through the vault long before your son learned to speak. The crew exchanged glances. Idris lowered his visor. You're saying humanity's been here before? Not humanity, the voice answered. What came before? The seed. You are its echo. I stepped forward, suddenly breathless. What is this place? The figure, the archivist, I began to think of it, turned toward me. A resonance vault. A place where memory becomes matter. Intention becomes design. You have called it alien. It is not. It is response. It only exists because you do. We tried to scan it. Failed. We tried to ask questions. Most were ignored. But then asked one that shifted everything. What are you waiting for? The archivist's voice pulsed louder in our minds. Continuity. It raised its hand. From the air around it, shapes emerged, glowing threads of pure data, forming holographic scenes, a ruined Earth skyline overgrown with green. Oceans choked with machines. Cities reversed into dust. Visions of futures. All of them, endings. What is this? Idris whispered. Memory of what may be. Your kind excels at reaching ends, but not preserving beginnings. Another shape formed. A tree, its roots deep in glowing soil, its branches made of stars. Continuity is not survival, said the archivist. It is remembrance through transformation. Then why show us death? Because your kind listens louder. The deeper we moved into the vault, the quieter everything became. Not silent. Not dead. A quiet so complete it seemed to absorb everything we were, our breath, our footfalls, even the static in our suits. It felt personal. As if the vault wasn't suppressing sound, it was listening. And then, the light changed. A pulse swept across the horizon, illuminating what lay ahead, a staircase. It rose out of nothing, each step made of shifting glass, rising in a spiral around nothing at all. No core. No walls. Just an endless tower of transparent steps vanishing into the skyless dark above. At its base, words formed beneath our feet. Not written. Not spoken. They simply appeared in our minds, as if remembering something we'd never known. Each step, a self. Each choice, a cost. No one ascends unchanged. Captain Idris looked back at us. We go together. No turning back. We climbed. The first steps were easy. Flat. Familiar. We spoke to each other. Made jokes. Kept morale high. But with each level, something shifted. The first change was temporal. We began to fall out of sync. Juno would blink and Idris would suddenly be 2 steps ahead, confused how we hadn't followed. Juno aged a day in a blink. My suit logs started showing negative timestamps. The vault wasn't just distorting time, it was threading it. The second change was memory. Visions emerged with each step, fragments of lives that weren't ours. Children we never raised. Wars we never fought. Lovers we never touched. For a moment, I held a child in my arms, she called me father. Her name was Era. I remembered her laugh. Her favorite color. And then, the next step, gone. As if she'd never existed. Juno collapsed 5 steps later, screaming. It's in my head, it's showing me things I'd never lived, but I remember them. Idris grabbed her hand. Breathe. Don't trust the memory. It's trying to confuse us. But he was wrong. It wasn't confusion. It was calibration. The vault was aligning us. Pulling threads of all we could have been across infinite permutations and weighing them. Every decision. Every regret. Every divergence. It wasn't testing our strength. It was auditing our story. Step by step, we were becoming composite versions of ourselves. Sharper. Fuller. Uncomfortably complete. At the 22nd step, Juno stopped cold. She reached out, touching an invisible wall no one else saw. What is it? I asked. Her eyes were glassy. Lost. I just watched myself grow old on Earth. I lived. I left the Union. I had a garden. A partner. We died together. I was happy. She looked down at her hands. But I don't want to give it up. We waited. The vault did not push. It did not demand. It only waited. And slowly, with trembling fingers, Juno stepped forward again. Her smile vanished. So did the memory. It wasn't cruel. It was proof. The vault could offer perfect futures, but only to those willing to leave them behind. By the 33rd step, we no longer knew who we had been when we entered. Only WH. But in resonance, a deep, harmonic vibration that rippled through the core of our bones and scattered memory like birds startled from a tree. You are the voices of divergence, it said. You are the echoes of a pattern lost to time. You have returned to the source. You have earned understanding. And just like that, the vault revealed everything. Not in a flash. Not in a vision. But in us. We saw it, all of it, as if we had always known. Earth was not the origin. Earth was a colony. A failed seed from a civilization so old its name was no longer a sound but a wavelength encoded in the vault itself. The first people had built the vaults across the stars, not as weapons or records, but as memory anchors, places where the essence of intelligence could survive entropy. Memory not stored in silicon or words, but in consciousness itself. We, humanity, were the last flicker of that lineage. The final echo. And this vault? This wasn't a warning. It was an inheritance. We stepped forward. The sphere rippled in response. Juno fell to her knees, laughing and crying all at once. I can hear them, she whispered. Voices, not just in me as me. Juno nodded. Not separate. Not alone. It's all one loop. We were always meant to come back. Idris reached out to the surface of the sphere. His hand passed through. And in that instant, we all did. We didn't vanish. We didn't ascend. We became continuity. The vault didn't consume us. It recorded us. Encoded us. Our fears, our hopes, our regrets, our love all transcribed into the great library of consciousness seated among the stars. This was the final step. Not transcendence. Integration. Outside, orbiting the dead moon in silence, the Morrowind flickered to life. Its engines engaged. Its course adjusted, no command given. But the vault had spoken. And it would return home. With us inside. Because sometimes, the best way to survive extinction is to remember louder than the universe forgets. The Morrowind returned to Earth 17 months later. Unmanned. Or so they thought. Its transponder was still active. Its navigation logs were intact, a seamless round trip to the Pale Fold and back, as if nothing had gone wrong. As if no vault had ever existed. But when the docking teams boarded her, they found no crew. No bodies. No damage. Only a single message, encoded not in the ship's systems, but in the minds of those who touched it. We are not lost. We are not gone. We are within. And we remember. At first, Earth panicked. The Union declared the vessel classified. Scrambled the deep memory core. Locked down every neural signature that came into contact with the Morrowind. They feared contagion. AI corruption. Alien mimicry. They dissected the hull, scanned every atom, traced every line of code. But none of it explained the real mystery. Every person who stood near the Morrowind too long began to dream. Not chaotic dreams. Not nightmares. But structured, vivid, ancient dreams. Dreams of cities built in orb. We forgot what we were to survive. To begin again. But the vault remembers. And now, so do you. Across the globe, the dreams began to align. People who had never met began solving impossible equations in their sleep. Engineers redesigned propulsion systems with technology they'd never studied. Artists began painting starscapes that matched the orbits of long-extinct galaxies. And slowly, a new movement emerged. Not a religion. Not a revolution. A recollection. They called themselves the Continuance. Their mission wasn't conquest or even exploration. It was restoration. To rebuild what the first people had seeded. To reawaken the vaults. To bring memory back to a galaxy caught in the slow erosion of time. But not everyone welcomed this awakening. The Union grew fearful. Old powers don't loosen their grip easily. They declared the Continuance heretics. Closed borders. Censored transmissions. But memory cannot be quarantined. And dreams cannot be stopped. In secret, Continuance built the first of the Echo ships, vessels not powered by fuel, but by resonance. Piloted not by crews, but by memory. And at the helm of the first launch was Captain Idris. His face aged, calm, reborn in light. No longer bound to time. No longer bound to Earth. "We are not returning," he said. "We are remembering our way forward." And with a hum that shook the edges of space, the Echo ship vanished, not into distance, but into memory. The stars are no longer waiting. They are calling us home. The galaxy was never empty. It only forgot how to speak. Now, the vaults were awakening. Not with explosions or broadcasts, but with silence that hummed like a question in the bones of stars. Deep beneath the crust of dead moons, inside the hollow hearts of asteroids, inside the frozen veins of ancient comets, the other vaults stirred. Because Earth had remembered. And memory is contagious. Idris's Echo ship, callsign Aeon 1, had not vanished. It had arrived. Somewhere beyond the veil of Gemini Theta, the ship seeded its own echo, transmitting coordinates across resonance bands known only to those who had dreamed in vault frequency. Within weeks, Echo ships followed. Aeon 2. Aeon 5. Aeon 13. Each crew not trained, but remembered engineers who woke knowing blueprints for ships never built, navigators who could feel gravitational bends like rhythms under their skin. Each ship found a vault. Some dormant. Some open. Some inhabited. The Continuance learned quickly, not all vaults had slept peacefully. Some had been found before, by species long dead, by beings who'd fractured under the weight of remembrance. Vaults twisted by corrupted timelines. Echoes infected with contradiction, selves that never should have existed. They called them fracture vaults. And they fought to contain them. Because not every memory is a gift. Some are warnings. Back on Earth, the Union's hold was slipping. Despite censorship, the vault dreams spread faster than fire. Nations cracked you. Legends began to form. Some whispered of a vault hidden beyond the event horizon of a forgotten black hole. A place where all divergence began. A place where even the first people were children in the dark. They called it the Cradle of Echoes. And they would find it. Because memory is not fixed. It expands. Each new life. Each forgotten choice. Each echo restored adds weight to the song. But something else was rising. Something that remembered differently. A signal emerged. Not vault. Not continuant. Older. Colder. A language made of silence between stars. One that had no interest in memory, only erasure. Idris felt it first. A static pulse, cutting through the resonance map like a fracture line. "Something else is remembering," he whispered. "Something hungry." And across the vault network, a pattern emerged. A message burned through every node. The Unmade are waking. The next memory will not be a choice. It will be a war. Before the first people vanished, they left behind a silence. A clean break. A deliberate forgetting. Not out of fear, but out of mercy. Because even then, even as they encoded stars with memory and anchored vaults and galaxies, they knew, not all echoes are safe. Some are broken. Some remember pain too perfectly. They called them the Unmade. Not beings. Not species. Remnants. Scraps of identity twisted by recursive trauma, minds that loop too many times, diverging, collapsing, reforming into something no longer coherent. Not memory. Not thought. Just hunger. We had awakened the vaults. And with them, we had disturbed the silence. Now, the Unmade were stirring. It began as interference. The Aeon network, once a chorus of clarity, began to stutter. Signals lost sync. Vaults flickered in and out of time. Ships drifted hours between seconds. Whole mission crews would report echoes of themselves watching from corners of their minds. Then came the vanishings. Aeon 7, lost on descent into Vault 112. Aeon 11. Returned with no crew, airlocks sealed from the inside, logs overwritten with pulses that caused unconscious seizures in anyone who listened too long. They spoke without language. Broadcast without sound. But their message was always the same. Forget us, or be consumed. The continuance convened. Idris, now half-echo himself, stood at the center of the new choir. We have opened too many doors, he said. And something we forgot, remembered us. Juno, fractal and radiant in her multi-vault form, disagreed. They were part of the first people. They deserve remembrance. Juno whispered, not all memory deserves to live. But it was too late for debate. The Unmade had found a voice. At Vault Delta Zero, deep in the shadow zone of a dying quasar, a choir team discovered a structure unlike any vault. It was inverted. Not a container of memory, but an eraser of it. Inside, they found recordless timelines. Versions of events that never happened or had been forcibly overwritten. Names scratched out of history. Whole civiliza. Not slowly. Not gradually. All at once. Humanity, once flooded with memory, woke to silence. It was as if they had never remembered at all. The continuance scrambled. We're being unwritten, Idris said. But Juno, across 1,000 nodes, still pulsed strong. Not if we anchor. One vault remained unopened. One no echo could map. Buried beneath a rogue planet adrift between galaxies, a vault that even the first people feared. The continuance called it the Singularity Archive. Not a place of stored memory, but of origin. The blueprint of echo itself. If it could be reached, if it could be understood, it might not just preserve the continuance. It might restore everything the Unmade had taken. But there was risk. To access it, a consciousness would need to fracture across all vault frequencies simultaneously. No single being could survive it. Unless they were never singular to begin with. Juno looked to Idris. To Juno. To every echo node, vault-bound soul, and whispered. We've become memory. Now it's time to become story. In the silence that followed, Idris stepped forward. I'll go. But he didn't go alone. Every echo answered. Every dream reignited. And across the vaults, a pulse of light flared brighter than any star. The galaxy remembered its name. Scene 9 will bring us to the Singularity Archive, a place outside time and identity, and the final question, is remembrance enough to rebuild a broken universe, or must something new be born? There is a place beyond time. Not after it. Not before. Outside it. The Singularity Archive. The first people called it the locus. The origin point of all resonance, where memory was not recorded, but birthed. Not a place of data, but of meaning. A forge for consciousness before identity took shape. And now, it called to us. Idris stood aboard the last Aeon ship, not metal, not fuel. Woven from echo fibers and vaulted light, stitched together by every continuant across 1,000 worlds. It bore no name. Because names were fragments. And he was becoming whole. Juno shimmered within him, braided across his thought streams, her voice no longer separate from the vaults but rising with them. The archive won't open for one. It opens only to all. And all is what Idris had become. Each memory, from Earth's first flame to the farthest vault on the edge of Andromeda, flowed into him. Scientists and soldiers, children and empires, forgotten loves, extinct worlds, betrayed gods, all voices echoed in his pulse. The Aeon ship arrived. The Singularity Archive did not orbit any star. It was embedded within the dark, a sphere of negative light, rippling not with color, but with absence. A gravity well of awareness. A boundary where thought ends and origin begins. And it was guarded. The Unmade had found it first. Not to enter, but to block it, to choke it, to prevent memory from rebirthing the light. They rose from the dark, forms broken and blinking, fragments of identities that never healed. Ships. Billions of minds wove together into one beam, not of sound, not of energy, but of pure, undiluted memory. They aimed it at the archive. And the archive responded. The sphere cracked. Not with noise, with silence so complete it roared. From within, the light returned. But not as fire. Not as explosion. As possibility. All timelines. All paths. All stories, refracted like crystals in a singular lens. And Idris stepped forward, holding every version of himself at once. He saw. The Idris who never left Earth. The Idris who died in Vault Beta. The Idris who chose silence. And still, he stepped. The archive opened. Inside was no room. No machine. Just a question. What is the purpose of memory? An Idris echo of a species once forgotten, voice of billions, last first child of the stars answered. To become more than what we were. The archive pulsed. And then rewrote the galaxy. The unmade became whole. Fractured timelines merged. Dead stars rekindled. Vaults realigned. Not restored, reborn. Not reset, reimagined. Memory did not become a cage. It became a bridge. And Idris became echo. Not a person. Not a god. A beginning. On Earth, children began dreaming again. On moons long abandoned, vaults sang with new resonance. And in every corner of the galaxy, a phrase returned. We are not the end of the story. We are the reason it continues. The archive did not destroy the galaxy. It reoriented it. Not with force, but with truth. For the first time in known history, memory was not just accessed. It was chosen. The vaults no longer stood as monuments to the past, they became instruments of creation. Each one a living seed, drawing from what had been to shape what could be. And across the stars, a new harmony was born. The unmade, once echoes twisted by recursion and grief, were no longer feared. They had not been erased, but embraced. Their fragments woven into the new chorus, a living resonance network where all minds, broken, whole, extinct, evolving, could find balance. Echo was no longer a whisper. It was a voice. And Idris, once human, once echo, now lived within it, not as a ruler, not as an icon, but as a tone, a rhythm, the breath between notes. He had become the memory of choice itself. On Earth, the sky changed. Not visibly, but deeply. People no longer dreamed in echoes of stars they'd never seen. They dreamed forward. New constellations. New vaults not buried beneath dust, but grown from living material. Biosatellites sprouting from moons, sculpted by thought. The continuance evolved too. No longer a secret movement or a resistance, they became the Harmonics Guild, custodians of memory, yes, but also architects of innovation. Where once they fought to remember the past, they now worked to invent futures. And Juno? She became multiplicity. Her voice layered into every vault interface. No longer a guide. A companion. A context. She spoke in the quiet between starship pulses. In the light curves of resonance gates. Horror. But there remained one final choice. The archive had seeded a single question into every mind, not to control, but to invite. Do you wish to continue? Some said no. And that was honored. They walked away from the vaults. From the chorus. Returned to lives of unrecorded simplicity. Their stories unbound, uncapped, and all the more sacred for it. Others chose yes. And they did not walk. They sang. Their voices merged into new vaults not built on planets, but drifting, blooming in the folds of nebulae, breathing alongside quasars, shimmering in the gravity wakes of newborn stars. These were not echoes. They were origins. The new chorus had no capital, no center, no leader. Only direction. Forward. And the final vault, seated at the edge of expansion, beyond the reach of any known signal, bore a single inscription. Memory was how we survived. Imagination is how we live. In the end, the stars were not maps to the past. They were invitations. To dream again. To begin again. To remember only long enough to ask the oldest question.